The transport ship broke through the clouds of the alien world, its metal hull glowing red from the friction of the atmosphere. Inside the ship, human soldier Ethan sat in silence, staring out the narrow window. His mission had ended, but he was not going home. Instead, he was being reassigned. The war between humans and the alien empire had finally slowed. Armies were tired, fleets broken, cities scarred. The humans had won battles no one thought possible. But even after victory, peace was a fragile thing. To keep it, humans had agreed to strange deals, and one of those deals had placed Ethan here. When the ship landed on the wide landing platform, the air shimmered with heat. Alien towers rose in the distance, tall and sharp like spears of crystal. Their surfaces reflected the sun in blinding colors. Alien guards stood in formation, their armor black and silver. Their eyes followed Ethan with cold hatred. He stepped out, boots echoing against the stone floor. He felt the weight of their stares, but he kept walking. A human soldier could not show fear here. The commander of the alien guards raised his hand. His voice was sharp. "Human soldier, you are assigned a companion. She will serve you as ordered." From behind the line of guards, she stepped forward. The alien girl moved with grace, her silver blue skin glowing faintly under the light. Her dark eyes were large and filled with something Ethan could not name. She wore a simple robe, not armor, and her long hair shimmered like threads of starlight. She stopped before him, lowered her head, and said in a calm voice, "They assigned me to serve you, and I am yours completely." The words hung in the air like chains. The guards shifted uncomfortably. Some sneered, others looked away. Ethan could feel the hatred around him. This was not loyalty. It was humiliation for them. To see one of their own kneel before a human was worse than defeat. Ethan studied her. She looked delicate, fragile even. Yet her voice carried strength. She did not shake. She did not cry. She spoke as if she accepted her fate, but her eyes told another story. Behind that calm surface burned fire. "Your name?" Ethan asked quietly. "Lyra," she said, her head still bowed. He wanted to tell her to stand, to stop pretending she belonged to him. But he knew the moment he spoke against the order, the guards would turn on him. Humans and aliens were not friends. They were enemies forced into an uneasy peace. And this arrangement was meant to remind both sides of power and control. The alien commander stepped forward, his voice sharp like a blade. "She will live with you. She will obey. She belongs to you now. Human, fail to keep her, and you will answer for it." Ethan clenched his jaw. He hated this. He had fought for freedom, not to own someone, but his orders were clear. He nodded once. "Understood." Lyra finally raised her head. Her dark eyes met his. For a moment, he saw something: anger, sorrow, defiance. It was gone too fast an aim, she whispered, almost too soft to hear. "Then it begins." The commander barked something to his soldiers, and the guards marched away, leaving Ethan and Lyra alone on the wide platform. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of the wind rushing past the towers. Ethan looked at her again. "Do you want this?" he asked. His voice was low, not unkind. Lyra's lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. "What I want does not matter. I was chosen, and now I am yours." Her words sent a shiver down his spine. They did not sound like surrender. They sounded like a warning. The human soldier and the alien girl walked together through the city streets. Crowds gathered at every corner, eyes filled with anger. Some whispered, some spat. The sight of Lyra walking beside him was enough to stir hatred in every direction. Ethan kept his hand near his weapon, but no one attacked, not yet. As they entered the quarters assigned to him, Ethan noticed strange symbols carved into the doorframe. Alien markings he did not understand. He asked her, "What do they mean?" Lyra touched the carvings with her slender fingers. Her voice was flat. "It means curse. They curse us both." Inside, the room was dim and cold. The walls hummed faintly, as if alive. The air carried the scent of burning metal. Lyra moved silently, her presence unsettling. She did not look at him often, but when she did, her eyes seemed to search his soul. That night, Ethan could not sleep. The shadows shifted, the lights flickered, and he thought he saw Lyra standing at the window. whispering words in a language he did not know. Her hands glowed faintly, the light fading as she turned back to him. She said nothing, but Ethan knew this assignment was not what it seemed. He lay back, staring into the darkness, one thought echoing in his mind. She had said, "I am yours completely," but what did that really mean? And why did it feel like the beginning of something far more dangerous than orders? Ethan woke early, but Lyra was already awake. She moved silently through the small alien quarters, her steps soft, her hands working with strange tools he did not understand. She seemed to know this place better than him, as if she had lived here long before he arrived. She brought water in a glass-like bowl and placed it before him without a word. Her movements were graceful, practiced, yet there was no warmth in them. She acted like someone following a script, every gesture controlled, every word chosen. "You don't have to do this," Ethan said, his voice low. "You don't belong to me." Lyra's eyes flicked to him, dark and unreadable. "But I was assigned to you. My life is yours now. This is the way," she replied. Her words sounded calm, but her tone carried a sharp edge, as if daring him to argue. Ethan frowned. He hated this arrangement, hated the feeling of being part of some cruel display of power. But even more, he hated that he could not read her true intentions. She was more than what she pretended to be. He could feel it. Later, as he prepared to step outside, Lyra touched his arm. Her hand was cold, almost trembling. "Wait," she whispered. Her eyes darted toward the door. "Something is wrong." Before he could ask, the lights in the room flickered, the air hummed with low energy, and the walls seemed to vibrate. Ethan reached for his weapon, scanning the corners. Then the door burst open. 3 alien rebels stormed in, their faces twisted with rage. "Human," one spat, his voice like venom. "You don't belong here. You steal our honor and make our daughters kneel. Tonight you die." Ethan raised his weapon, but he was outnumbered. They rushed at him with blades glowing blue. His heart pounded. He thought this was the end. Then Lyra moved. She stepped between Ethan and the rebels, her hands glowing with strange light. In a single motion, she lifted them toward the air, and the rebels froze, their bodies stiffened, weapons clattering to the floor, their eyes widened with fear as an invisible force wrapped around them. Ethan stared, stunned. The glow from Lyra's hands pulsed brighter, her voice like a chant. The rebels gasped, choking as if their lungs were crushed. Then, with a flick of her fingers, she threw them back against the wall. They collapsed, groaning in pain but alive. The room fell silent. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. What are you?" he whispered. Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. "I am what they made me, a servant, a weapon, a warning." Her words echoed through him. She had saved his life, but at what cost? He now knew she carried power far beyond anything he expected, and that power made her dangerous. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ethan asked, his grip still tight on his weapon, though he knew it would be useless against her. Lyra tilted her head, her dark eyes glinting with something sharp. "Because you were not ready to know. Because they assigned me to you for a reason you don't understand yet. Because if you knew the truth too soon, you would run." Her voice softened, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. "But now you cannot run. You saw. You cannot unsee." Ethan swallowed hard. He felt the weight of her words pressing down on him. This was no simple assignment. She was no ordinary servant, and whatever bound them together was far deeper than orders from above. That night, when he tried to rest, he could not. The image of her power haunted him. The rebels' screams echoed in his head. And when he looked across the room, he saw her sitting by the window again, her face lit by the pale light of the alien moon. Her lips moved in silent words he could not understand. She looked almost fragile in that moment, like a girl trapped in fate too heavy for her shoulders. But then her eyes glowed faintly again, and he remembered the truth. She was more dangerous than anyone he had ever met. Ethan turned away, trying to steady his breathing. He wanted answers. He needed to know why she was placed with him, what power she held, and whether she was truly his ally or his enemy. Lyra's voice broke the silence, soft but certain. Do not ask questions you are not ready to hear. Human soldier, for every answer will change you. And once you are changed, you can never go back. Ethan felt the air grow colder. He realized then that he had stepped into something far bigger than himself. He was no longer just a soldier on a strange world. He was now bound to a secret that could shake both humans and aliens alike. And as he drifted into restless sleep, one thought circled endlessly in his mind. She had said, "I am yours completely," but was that promise or a warning? The city streets were never quiet. Alien eyes followed Ethan and Lyra. Wherever they went, crowds whispered, hissed, and spat when they passed. The sight of an alien girl walking beside a human soldier was like poison to them. Ethan kept his hand close to his weapon, but he knew it was useless against the weight of hatred in the air. At every corner he felt the tension rising, and Lyra, walking with calm steps, seemed to ignore it all. Her face was still, her eyes unreadable. That night, the silence around their quarters was too heavy. Ethan felt it pressing on him. He could not rest. He kept his rifle across his chest as he lay on the bed. Lyra sat near the window again, her gaze fixed on the dark streets outside. "Do you feel it?" Ethan asked quietly. Lyra turned her head slightly. Her voice was calm, almost cold. "They are watching. They are waiting. The night will not end peacefully." Before Ethan could respond, the lights flickered. The hum of the walls grew louder. Then a crash echoed from outside. Boots stomped on stone. Harsh voices shouted. The rebels had returned, and this time they came prepared. The door burst open. Shadows filled the room as a dozen rebels stormed inside. Their weapons glowed blue, their faces twisted with rage. "The human dies tonight," one shouted, "and the traitor girl with him." Ethan rolled off the bed, firing his rifle in sharp bursts. 2 rebels fell, but the others pressed forward. Their glowing blades cut through furniture like paper. The room shook with the clash of steel and energy. Lyra moved like flowing light. Her hands glowed once more. She caught one rebel mid-strike, twisting his body in the air with unseen force. Another charged at her, but she raised her palm and released a blast that hurled him across the room. But this time, the rebels were ready. They carried strange devices that crackled with red sparks. When one of them activated it, Lyra gasped, her glowing hands dimmed, her body trembling. It was a weapon designed to drain her power. Ethan saw her fall to one knee. A rebel raised his blade to strike her. Without thinking, Ethan threw himself forward, tackling the alien to the ground. His rifle skidded away. They wrestled in the dust, Ethan's muscles straining against the alien's strength. The rebel hissed in his ear, "You will die, human, and she will die too. She is not yours. She never was." Ethan slammed his fist into the rebel's face, grabbed the fallen blade, and drove it into the ground beside him. Forcing the alien back, his chest burned, his breath ragged. He turned and saw Lyra, still struggling against the energy pulling at her. "Lyra!" he shouted. She looked at him, her eyes filled with pain. For the first time, he saw fear there. With a desperate cry, she forced her hand against the device. The glow in her veins flared brighter. Her scream shook the walls. The weapon shattered, sparks flying, and her power returned like a raging storm. The rebels froze, fear flooding their faces. Lyra rose slowly, her body glowing with silver fire. She raised both hands, and the air itself seemed to bend. A wave of energy exploded from her, throwing every rebel across the room. They hit the walls with bone-cracking force. Silence followed. Ethan stood there, his chest rising and falling. His rifle lay forgotten. He watched Lyra's glowing form with awe and terror. Her hair floated as if caught in a wind only she could feel. Her eyes burned like twin stars. Then, slowly, the glow faded. She fell to her knees, breathing hard. Her skin was pale, sweat dripping down her face. Ethan rushed to her, catching her before she collapsed. "You saved me," he whispered, holding her trembling form. Her lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. "No, human soldier, I saved us both. But it will not end here. They will keep coming. They will not stop until we are dead." Ethan looked at the broken bodies of the rebels around them. His stomach tightened. She was right. This was only the beginning. Lyra's voice softened, almost like a warning. Do you see now why they fear me? Do you see why they hate me? I am not just a servant. I am a danger, and now, because you are with me, you are a danger too. Ethan tightened his grip on her. His heart pounded. He should have been afraid. He should have pushed her away. But instead he said, "Then let them come. We face it together." Her eyes widened at his words. For a moment the hardness in them faded. She looked at him not with anger, not with fear, but with something else, something she was trying to hide. The night was quiet again, but the silence was no comfort. The first clash had ended, yet both of them knew another storm was already on its way. The sun rose over the alien city, but for Ethan and Lyra there was no peace. The quarters were damaged from the clash, the walls scorched, the floor cracked. The rebels' blood still stained the stones, and the silence after battle was heavier than the fight itself. Ethan stood near the doorway, scanning the street with tired eyes. He knew more would come. He could almost feel the city watching them, waiting for the moment to strike again. Beside him, Lyra leaned against the wall, pale from the strain of using her powers. Her breathing was steady, but her strength was not yet restored. "You should rest," Ethan said quietly. Lyra's lips curved in a faint smile. "And leave you alone in this nest of wolves? No, human soldier, if I sleep now, you may not see another sunrise." Her words carried no fear, only cold certainty. Ethan studied her, wondering how many nights she had lived like this, hunted by her own kind, forced to stand alone. Soon they were ordered to move. A message came from the alien commander, sharp and merciless. They were to travel to a nearby outpost where Ethan's presence was required. "Peace talks," the message said, but Ethan heard the truth hidden behind it, a trap. They left the city on foot, walking down long stone roads that cut through alien forests. The trees glowed faintly, their leaves pulsing with strange light. The air hummed with energy. Strange creatures moved between the branches, their eyes glowing in the shadows. Ethan kept his rifle ready. His every sense screamed danger. Yet Lyra walked calmly beside him, her robe flowing, her gaze steady. She seemed part of the forest itself, like it obeyed her presence. Hours passed in silence until Ethan finally spoke. "Why did they give you to me, Lyra? Was it really to serve, or was it something more?" She slowed her steps, her eyes lowered for a moment. And when she spoke, her voice was heavy. "I was once promised to another, a commander of my people, strong and ruthless. But when he saw me hesitate, when he saw doubt in my eyes, he cast me aside. To him, I was weak, unworthy, and so the council chose my punishment, to serve a human, to shame me, and to shame you." Ethan stopped walking. Her words struck him like a blade. He had thought she was a sign for political games, but this was deeper, crueler. "So you are here because of him," he said. Lyra met his gaze, her eyes burned. "Yes, and because of me, because I would not become what they wanted, because I chose not to kill when ordered, I became a disgrace." Ethan felt a strange anger rise within him. Not at her, but at those who used her as a pawn. He wanted to tell her she was not weak, that saving lives was not weakness. But before he could, the forest around them stirred. Figures emerged from the trees, armored rebels with weapons drawn. Their leader stepped forward, his face marked with scars. "Human," he shouted, "give her to us. She is ours, not yours. Leave her, and we will let you live." Ethan raised his rifle without hesitation. His voice was hard. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." Lyra glanced at him, something flickering in her eyes. For a moment she looked almost surprised. Then she stepped closer, her voice like a whisper. "You should not fight for me. You should not risk your life. I'm only your servant." Ethan shook his head. "No, Lyra, you are not just that, not anymore." The rebels charged. Energy bolts tore through the air. Ethan fired back, dropping two before they reached him. But there were too many. The forest echoed with the clash of battle. Lyra lifted her hands, power surging through her veins once more. Light exploded from her palms, striking enemies with crushing force. But the rebels pressed harder. They wanted her. Not him. They called her traitor, cursed her name, shouted promises of her execution, and every word cut her deeper. Ethan could see in her face she was fighting not just for survival, but against her own past. The battle raged until the ground was littered with broken weapons and fallen bodies. The survivors fled into the trees, their shouts fading. Silence returned, heavy and sharp. Ethan dropped to one knee, breathing hard. His rifle was nearly empty. His body ached from the fight. Lyra stood beside him, glowing faintly, her eyes distant. She whispered, "Do you see, this is what it means to walk beside me. This is the curse I carry." He looked at her, sweat dripping down his face. "Then we share it, Lyra, together." Her breath caught at his words. For the first time, her mask cracked. He saw not the weapon, not the servant, but the woman hidden beneath. Her eyes glistened with something she quickly tried to hide. They continued their journey in silence. But something had changed. Their bond was no longer of orders and obedience. It was forged in battle, in choice, in defiance. Yet trust was still fragile, like a thread pulled tight, and both knew that thread could snap with one secret too many. As the outpost lights flickered in the distance, Ethan felt the weight of what lay ahead. He was no longer just a soldier following orders. He was walking a path tangled with fate, tied to a girl who was never meant to be his. And though the bond between them grew stronger, so did the shadow of what waited beyond. The alien outpost stood like a fortress of black stone, its towers sharp against the sky. Ethan and Lyra entered under the watch of guards whose eyes burned with silent hatred. Inside, the air was cold, filled with the hum of hidden machines. They were led into a chamber where alien generals waited. Their faces were stern, their armor heavy, their voices cut the air like blades. "Human soldier," one said, "you bring shame to our people. You walk with the traitor. You protect what should be destroyed." Ethan stood firm, but he felt the tension coil inside him. He could sense the trap closing. Lyra stood beside him, her face calm, but her hands tight at her side. She did not speak, not until one of the generals pointed at her. She was never meant to serve. She was meant to watch, to listen, to report. The general said, "She was placed with you not as a gift, but as a spy." The words struck Ethan like thunder. His chest tightened. He turned to Lyra. Searching her face, she did not deny it. Her silence was answer enough. Finally, she spoke, her voice low. "It is true, at first, I was told to watch you, to learn your strengths, to learn your weakness, to send word back to them." Her eyes met his, heavy with guilt. "But I stopped. I chose not to betray you. I chose to protect you instead." Ethan's jaw clenched. Anger burned through him, yet so did confusion. He had trusted her, fought beside her, and now the truth stood between them like a blade. "Why should I believe you?" he asked. Lyra stepped closer. Her voice shook, not with fear, but with emotion. "Because I had the chance to betray you many times, and I did not, because I had the chance to let you die, and instead I fought for you. I'm not theirs anymore. I am yours." The generals laughed, harsh and cruel. "She lies, human. Give her back to us, and we will grant you safe passage home. Refuse, and you will die here with her." Ethan felt every eye in the chamber fixed on him. His mind raced. His order said nothing about this. There was no training for choices like this. But when he looked at Lyra, he saw not a spy, not a servant, but someone who had fought beside him when no one else would. He raised his rifle slowly, aiming not at her, but at the generals. His voice was steady. "If you want her, you'll have to kill me first." Gasps filled the chamber. The generals rose in anger. Guards stepped forward, weapons ready. Lyra's breath caught in her chest. She whispered, "Why? Why would you choose me?" Ethan's eyes did not leave the enemy. "Because you already chose me." The room exploded into chaos. Guards rushed. Ethan fired. Lyra's hands glowed once more. The chamber shook as battle erupted. Bolts of energy flashed. Walls cracked. The generals shouted orders, but their voices drowned in the roar of conflict. Side by side, Ethan and Lyra fought their way out, their bond sealed not by orders, but by choice, Blood and fire marked their path as they fled into the wilds beyond the outpost. When they finally stopped, far from the fortress, Ethan collapsed against a stone wall, his chest heaving. Lyra stood over him, her glow dimming. Her face was pale, but her eyes were strong. "You were never supposed to trust me," she said softly. "You were supposed to hate me, to cast me away. That was their plan, but now the plan is broken, and because of that, both our worlds will come for us." Ethan looked up at her, his voice rough. "Then let them come. We'll face them together." For a moment, her expression softened. Her hand brushed against his shoulder, almost like a promise. Then she pulled away, her gaze on the dark horizon. The hidden plan was no longer hidden. The Council's game had turned into war, and Ethan knew there was no turning back. He had chosen her, and in doing so, he had chosen to stand against an empire. The night air was heavy with smoke. Ethan and Lyra moved through the wilderness, leaving the outpost far behind. The stars above glimmered cold and distant, but even they seemed to watch, silent witnesses to the storm that was rising. Word spread quickly. The Alien Council declared Ethan a traitor. They called him a human thief who had corrupted one of their own. They called Lyra a traitor twice over. First for refusing her people, and second for choosing a human. Together they were marked as enemies to both sides. When Ethan learned of this, he only tightened the straps on his rifle. "Then it's official," he said. "We fight everyone now." Lyra's face was calm, but her voice carried sorrow. "This is what I warned you. You stand with me, and you stand against the galaxy. Do you still choose this?" Ethan looked at her without hesitation. "I already chose, Lyra. I chose the moment you saved me." For a moment her eyes softened, and something unspoken passed between them. But before either could say more, the forest trembled with the sound of marching feet. Troops appeared from the shadows, armored soldiers with banners of the alien empire. Their commander raised his hand and shouted, "Surrender the girl, human. Lay down your weapon, and you may live." Ethan stood firm, rifle raised. "Not happening," he growled. Lyra stepped beside him, her hands glowing faintly. She whispered, "There are too many." Ethan gave her a sharp look. "Then we make them fewer." The battle erupted. The night blazed with fire and light. Ethan fired with precision, every shot cutting down an enemy. Lyra's power surged, bending the air, throwing soldiers back like leaves in the wind. Together they fought as one. But the soldiers kept coming, wave after wave, for every one that fell. Two more appeared. Their voices filled the air with curses. "Traitor! Human thief! She is ours!" Ethan's body burned with exhaustion. His arms ached from the weight of his rifle. Yet he refused to fall. Lyra's glow brightened, her power crackling like lightning. But every use drained her further. Sweat covered her skin, her breath sharp and quick. At last, the commander himself charged. His blade glowed with deadly light. He struck at Ethan, forcing him back. Ethan barely blocked, sparks flying from the clash. The alien was stronger, faster. His strikes rained down like thunder. Just as the blade neared Ethan's throat, Lyra screamed. Her power burst outward, wrapping around the commander. His body froze mid-strike, lifted into the air by invisible chains. Her voice trembled with fury. "You will not take him from me." With a final cry, she hurled him into the ground. The earth cracked beneath the impact. Silence fell. The surviving soldiers, terrified, fled into the night. Ethan staggered to her side. His chest heaved with breath. His arms shook. He looked at her glowing form. "Lyra," he said softly, "you saved me again." Her eyes shimmered, not with power, but with tears she tried to hide. She whispered, "I did not save you because I was ordered. I saved you because I chose. Do you understand now? I am yours not by command, not by chains, but by my heart." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had heard her say she belonged to him before, but never like this, never with such raw truth. For the first time, he saw not a servant, not a spy, but a woman who had made her choice, even if it meant losing everything. He reached out, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Then we fight together, no matter what comes." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, leaning into his touch. Then she straightened, her face once more strong. The war will grow now. Human and alien both will hunt us. They will not forgive this. They will not stop. Ethan lifted his rifle, his voice steady. Then neither will we. They walked into the night, their steps steady, bound not by orders, but by loyalty freely chosen. Around them, the world stirred with whispers of rebellion and vengeance. The Empire would not forget. Humanity would not forgive. The war of loyalties had begun, and in its fire, the bond between a soldier and an alien girl would be tested like never before. The sky burned with fire as war spread across the stars. Ships of the alien empire clashed with human fleets. Whole worlds trembled under the weight of vengeance. And in the middle of it all, Ethan and Lyra carried the burden of their choice. They had become symbols, the human soldier who refused to surrender, and the alien girl who chose her own path. Some called them heroes. Many called them traitors. Armies hunted them, yet whispers spread of their defiance. Whispers that lit sparks of rebellion on both sides. Ethan and Lyra moved from world to world, hunted and cornered, but never broken. Every battle pushed them closer. Every escape forged their bond deeper. And in time, they uncovered something greater than betrayal or loyalty. Hidden in the ruins of an ancient outpost, they found a weapon, not of steel but of energy, a forgotten creation of the alien empire. Lyra studied the carvings etched into its walls, her fingers trembling. This was meant to end wars, to burn entire fleets with one command, she whispered. Ethan's jaw tightened. He knew what it meant. If the Empire regained this weapon, humanity would fall. If humanity seized it, the aliens would be destroyed. Either way, the galaxy would drown in blood. Lyra turned to him, her voice low. We cannot let either side have it. If we use it, we must use it for something greater. Before Ethan could answer, the ground shook. The Empire had found them. A fleet descended from the skies. Soldiers poured into the ruins. Their leader raised his blade and shouted, "Seize the traitor and the human. Take the weapon." The ruins exploded into battle. Ethan fired his rifle with unshaken resolve. Lyra unleashed her power in blazing storms of light. Together they fought, holding the line against wave after wave. But the enemy was endless. As the battle raged, Ethan shouted over the roar, "Lyra, the weapon. Can you control it?" Her eyes glowed, her hands trembling. "Yes, but only with you." They reached the heart of the ruins, where a massive crystal pulsed with energy. Symbols glowed across its surface. Ethan placed his hand on it. Lyra's hand joined his, and together their voices echoed in harmony. The crystal answered. A beam of light shot into the sky, striking the fleet above. Ships trembled, their weapons disabled, their engines frozen. But instead of destruction, the light spread like a wave of peace, forcing the ships into silence. On the ground, soldiers dropped their blades, stunned as the energy pulsed through them. Not killing, but stripping away the will to fight for the first time. The war paused. Ethan gasped, his body shaking. "We did it." Lyra's voice was soft, filled with awe. Not destroyers, not conquerors, but something new. But the effort had drained her. She collapsed against him, her body trembling. He caught her in his arms, holding her close. "Stay with me." "Lyra," he whispered, her lips curve in a faint smile. "I am yours, Ethan, not because they ordered, not because I was assigned, but because I choose it always." Tears stung his eyes. He pressed his forehead against hers, his voice rough. "And I choose you." The world around them fell quiet. Soldiers from both sides watched in silence. They had seen power unlike anything before, not power of destruction, but power of unity, a human and an alien standing together, refusing the old chains of war. News spread faster than any fleet could fly. The story of the soldier and the servant, of betrayal turned into loyalty, of enemies who became more than allies. The galaxy could no longer ignore the truth. Ethan and Lyra stood together on the steps of the ruins, battered but unbroken. Behind them the weapon pulsed quietly, no longer a tool of death but a symbol of change. The war was not over, but its heart had been broken. Humanity had shown it could not be bent. The alien empire had seen that loyalty could not be forced. And in the end, two souls who were never meant to meet had rewritten destiny. Side by side, Ethan and Lyra looked into the burning sky, their voices steady, their hearts as one. They had survived, they had chosen each other, and together they had won.